what I see the future of all business is 100% AI and it collapsing down to a relationship. And I think, like I heard a great thing that Elon said where he said that if you think of like what a spreadsheet is, so if you're a male, we all create spreadsheets, right? I don't know why, it's a man thing. And so we all have these spreadsheets that we'd be embarrassed if anyone else see how much we spend on our spreadsheets. But in the 60s, it would have taken a whole building of people to do all those calculations. So if you had two businesses where one of them is 100% spreadsheet and one is 99%, and they have to calculate two of those cells, this business will win. Eventually, the percentage difference becomes exponential over the long term. So every business needs to be thinking about how to be 100% AI and to collapse their business down to a relationship. And that's what we're also driving forward with us with AI. Is our goal is that if people need something, there's like an AI assistant that helps them right away. But if they say human, like boom, there's a human right there in seconds. So that they feel like they're supported, but they have an omniscient entity that they can direct and say, hey, we need to download this. Great, here you go. Go over here, boom, 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 it's done. Because again, our goal is that this takes 0% of your, this takes 0% of your time. And AI is the solution to do that. And we can provide a more human experience by mitigating silly tasks that take you a lot of time so that you don't ever have to wait for anything.
This is the Afternoon Advisor, where we break down how certain advisors grow so fast it looks like cheating. I'm Nate Hoskin. I'm a financial planner, a digital marketing nerd, and I spend my days building and breaking growth systems in my own business and in yours. Today, we're talking about how to keep track of your marketing and communications so you can grow fast without stepping on regulatory landmines. I'm joined by Chad Gordon, a published author and founder of Green Star Advisors and RIA here in Denver. But if you asked him, he wouldn't lead with either of those because he's also the founder of Sharp Archive. Sharp Archive makes social media and communications archiving easy so you can focus on growing without the regulators breathing down your neck. Today, we're playing Goldilocks to figure out if you're worrying too much or too little about your compliance and record keeping. Chad, good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
So excited we get into this because the books and record requirement is a boogeyman that is keeping a lot of advisors up at night. So I want to hear from you. Are we worrying too much? Are we worrying too little?
That's a good question. Well, obviously, I don't know for each individual. So books and records is a broad thing. I'll talk about my part of it. So I have Sharp Archive is a software that does communication archiving. So to be clear on what that means is we are regulated to archive every email, every text message, every social media post, every direct message, basically everything. Plus all your website content. So every blog, every change on your website. So if you post something and delete it, you need to show that there was something on there. If someone comments on your social media and they delete it, that needs to be reflected. So generally what we found when we take on new users is that people are not doing that. And generally the SEC is fining people for not doing that. And so in the last, say 2 or 3 years, there have been $2.6 billion in SEC fines, usually targeting big firms for generally off-platform communication is what they would say. So that would be frequently text messages. So you think, how many channels of communication are there? Now there's like WeChat and Telegram and stuff that I barely use, but it's growing more and more. There's Slack. It's becoming this infinite, scattered way of how people communicate with each other. So the books and records requirement basically means you have to archive everything. So everything, the obvious things are communication with a client, but it's also communication between brokers. So if you have two brokers who are talking on Signal, that's off-platform communication. That's a big thing of what those SEC fines were, where people were texting on WhatsApp about business-related stuff.
Got it. Okay, so yes, there needs to be archiving in place. Otherwise, it's absolutely a risk in your business.
Yeah, you're not in compliance, straight up.
So do you think that's something worth worrying about or something worth just fixing and solving?
Well, yeah, you should worry about it. Okay. So we can go into the history of this if that's helpful.
Let's do it.
So here, okay, let's think about our industry. in what it was like the 60s. So imagine white collar crime in the 60s. Everyone's wearing fedoras, and it's like, see? Everyone's talking like that.
Oh, what is that? The oceanic? No.
The transatlantic.
Transatlantic, thank you.
Everyone was speaking a transatlantic accent doing white collar crime. So if a company that is doing securities fraud, they have file cabinets and they're creating statements, and like, who knows how they did this back then. And so if they get in trouble when the feds come in wearing their plaid, jumper or whatever.
Smoking a cigarette,
exactly.
Of course.
And they go through all the files, and then they're burning documents or whatever they do. So enter the electronic age. White collar crime in the age of email. Okay, so documents are now electronic. So if the feds come in, delete, and with seconds, all the evidence could be deleted right away before it can be subpoenaed. So normally, if there's an investigation, there's a big lag between you're under investigation and therefore turn things are on legal hold. So this is why all these archiving laws exist. They are, to put a point on it, to make it really easy to get you in trouble. That is why they exist. So like we tend to think about it as like, well, the SEC is making me do this. Like, no, they are, but really it's for future opposing counsel to make it easy to get you in trouble.
So the SEC isn't the enemy?
No, they're not the enemy. So like the SEC, in some level it feels that way, but really you think of a world, sounds pandering, but think of a world without the SEC. What would our reputation be like without some legal enforcement? There would be white collar crime, there would be things, there wouldn't be archiving laws to prove things and like, oh, this guy got swindled and there's nothing that could be done about it. So it's a reputationally good thing that something can be done when there's wrongdoing. And so the SEC, in some sense, is like keeping the streets safe, but really the bigger thing firms should fear, as you asked, should we fear this? I think that what a firm should fear is opposing counsel more than anything else, is you should fear the thought of one of your advisors saying something to a client or whoever, or publicly, or whatever format that is easy to get your firm sued. And
that would be a great reason to invite regulatory scrutiny.
Absolutely.
Be if you have
a lot of audits and exams are triggered by client complaints.
So do you feel like the SEC, if the SEC isn't the enemy, is the SEC on our side?
I don't know. Maybe you could say that. In some sense, yes. In this, it's like a lifeguard. Are they on your side? Is it annoying that they whistle at you? Yeah. Is it annoying when some teenager tells you to stop being loud in the pool? Yeah, it's annoying. But the reason why it's there is to protect the public, but it's also protecting us. Is like, imagine trying to be a financial advisor without a reputation. You're not in business. That's the truth.
And even if you were the best advisor in the world, but everyone around you was acting irresponsibly, no one would work with you because they would make the assumption that you're one of the many.
Wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I would want to protect my money from people who weren't being properly regulated.
Yeah. So they're not the enemy ultimately, but they are also who you should be feared. They can make your life really miserable. They're the ones who let you be in business. So absolutely you should, this is the lifeguard that we abide by.
Yeah. Well, if we make the assumption that the lifeguard is going to be paying attention and they're going to be watchful, and that in many ways that's a good thing, how do we abide? How do we make sure that we wait an hour before we swim? So
for one thing, the lifeguard analogy falls apart. The lifeguard, think of it like this. The lifeguard is on duty for 5 minutes and then they go away. The lifeguard is your firm. And so what the SEC requires is like, no, it's not our job to be your lifeguard. It's your firm's job to be its own lifeguard. So what the SEC requires, rather than getting into the details of books and records, which we can talk in principle what's required, what you should be thinking about is, the SEC is looking at your firm to have a policy of supervision. And when they give you an exam, they're going to be looking for, what is your policy? Are you following that policy? And is it congruent with books and records requirements? Beyond that, they are just there to see if you're doing that. And so if they do an exam, they're not going to look at all of your communication. They're looking at a sample of it. and they'll run it through software to see if there's stuff that is not compliant. And if there was stuff that you didn't know about, if you had a process to find it, if it slipped through the cracks, that's the bigger problem, is not so much that there isn't stuff in your communication, it's more of that you didn't have a policy, you weren't doing it, things weren't comprehensively being archived.
So what's the difference between if the SEC catches you not having a supervision policy versus if the SEC catches you making promissory statements, for example?
Sure. Well, I mean, it depends on who's saying it, of course. But so, I mean, let's think of two different scenarios. Scenario number one, you have a firm where you have an advisor who's making promissory statements. And that firm has a policy of supervising that person, and then they caught that and mitigated it. The promissory statements were said, they issued a letter to clients, or however they decided to mitigate it. Versus door number two, a firm that doesn't have a supervision policy, or it's an inept supervision policy. I mean, who knows what the SEC does, but if this is not a failure to supervise, this is a failure to supervise.
Got it. And so if you handled it, let's say you have a client infraction or you have an advisor who says something that they shouldn't have, but you handle it, how does that mitigate your risk? Like, are you still going to jail? What's happening?
Sure. Well, it depends on what happens from it. So if you have someone who's like promising 1,000% return and basically has a Ponzi scheme, this discovery is going to become this explosive thing. They're going to look at for more, how far back did this go? What do we need to mitigate? There'll be a big fine. If it's like this happened once, like usually at the end of an exam, if it's a small firm, there'll be a letter, actually all firms, there'll be a letter issued from whatever regulator, and they'll list out everything that they see. It could be cybersecurity, it could be anything outside of whatever. And so if they find something like this advisor said this promissory statement, but you need to be a little more stricter with how often you're doing it, increase how frequently you're doing it, or basically they're going to ask the firm, they're usually not going to say you need to do this specific thing. They're going to say this was a failure. You need to tell us how you're going to do better.
Right. Which reflects quite nicely with the examination that I had, because I had my 1-year DORA review when I moved my RIA from California to Colorado. Mm-hmm. And so they came in and they did a modified examination, and we filled it all out on Google Forms, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah.
But I then met with the regulator who was on my case, and he essentially just gave me lots of really good feedback on how to run the firm better. Like, it wasn't, when I got the deficiency letter, it wasn't all of these things are going to get you in trouble and you're never going to be able to practice again. It was just like, you did most things properly. Here are a few things that you can work on. Yeah.
So a deficiency letter is what everybody gets, pretty much. Yeah. There's always a deficiency. It's never going to be perfect. From my experience with regulators is that they're not your enemy. They're trying to help you. They're trying to protect the public, but they're also helpful. They're trying to help you do well.
Absolutely. They want you to succeed. So if we can make a reasonable assumption that in general the regulators would like to see you succeed, and that most advisors generally know what they should and shouldn't say. Which I know that might be a broad statement because I'm sure there's someone who's going to mess up. But if we can say, okay, we're generally not going to be running Ponzi schemes, what do we need to do as firm owners to make sure that we're keeping track of all of these things?
Yeah, so it's very simple. Like you can talk to compliance attorneys and say specifics, but generally you need to archive everything. So absolutely everything comprehensive. That means think of how do your advisors talk to clients or each other. Okay, that's email. That is text message. Okay, well, it's text message, but is it WhatsApp? Is it, think of everything. There's so many things. Okay, Facebook. Do they ever talk on Facebook or X about business? Do they comment on a stock? Probably, even if it's their personal thing. So like you need to make that determination. LinkedIn. Okay, well, what about direct messages? Like, so it's comprehensive. Okay, your website, that needs to be archived. So just think of everything. Everything that you use as a business communications. If you have Slack, Microsoft Teams, it just needs to be everything. The second thing is you need a supervision policy. This is part of the books and records thing. The standard is a 5% review of communication. And so we'll talk about that when we talk about Sharp Archive as a product. But it is a good-sized firm or any firm will has to read 5% of emails and 5% of text messages, 5% of everything. That 5% number, though, is not a regulatory number. That is a standard. And so I've seen some firms where they do 10%.
It's a lot of emails.
It's a lot. It's a pretty, yeah, I wouldn't want that job. So like you need a supervision thing and you need to show evidence of it. If you do those things, you're 95% of the way there. But I mean, in addition to that, of course, it's what you're looking for. So you shouldn't say the promissory statements, guarantees, anything that's kind of, anyone who's been in the industry knows what those are.
Right, and are pretty aware when they're saying something that's out of line. I would hope.
It is, but it's also like if you've ever been supervised, so like I'm dating myself here. Last time I was at a broker-dealer, a long time ago. but if you have had the experience of submitting something to compliance and the stuff that come back to you of where they say, making you say statements and how do you quote an index, you can invest in an index. It's some of those kind of anal things.
The nitpicky pieces.
Yeah.
You can't protect a portfolio on the downside type of thing.
Yeah, but it's also like, what's a promissory statement? That's a pretty, like, don't worry, Nate, it's going to go back up. Whoop.
Oops.
That's not me saying it's going to go up 1,000%, but that's a promissory statement.
Yeah, I could see there being some nitty gritty in there and I liked your example of the firm as the lifeguard. Like at the end of the day, particularly when you're working with other advisors or you're supervising other advisors, it's up to you to find, catch, and deal with those moments.
Correct. And in my opinion, firms are not appreciating the era that we're going into because, like, the SEC is not your enemy. To me, it's opposing counsel. Let's say you are an ambulance-chasing lawyer. No offense to if that's in your audience.
No, I think we can talk shit. I don't have an issue with that.
But we are entering into an age where litigating against firms has never been easier. So, hello LLMs, hello Grok, hello ChatGPT. What if you are a lawyer and you're like, you try to generate people to say, have you lost money? So let's fast forward. We're right now in an AI boom. All things in. There will, I get annoyed whenever in financial news they talk about, well, there will be a recession. We'll do this. Yeah, there will be a recession. There will always be a recession. There will always be a bear market. At the end of all this, the market will likely go down 30 to 50%. That's what usually happens. So let's fast forward to that era. Where will AI be if it's, say, 2 years from now? How hard would it be for a lawyer to do ads to say, go to my website, all you need to do is click on this button, it's going to go through all your emails, it's going to go through your text messages, and we're going to see if we can sue your financial advisor. So what happens is when you get sued, opposing counsel says, hey, you're sued, sorry about that. And they say, we need all this data from your firm. We need all emails over the last 7 years, because that's what we all have to retain. They're going to take all that data, they're going to run it through their LLM and find everything they can possibly find to make it crystal clear that your firm has a problem with saying promissory statements. They're also going to probably find that you haven't been comprehensive. They're going to be able to prove that, well, this client said, text me here, and that I don't see a text thing, so there's missing stuff here. At the end of it, your firm is going to be like, okay, I have to settle. Pick a number, but if the market is down 40% and a large client sues you,
it's a lot of money.
That's a lot more than what you're going to pay a compliance software to be careful, to help your firm not do that, which we can pivot to.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that as you were listing all of the things that need to be archived. I was like, this is starting to smell expensive.
Well, so let me unabashedly pitch where I see all this going. So what we are building with Sharp Archive is already it's a software that I think is better than everything else out there in terms of how long it takes you to do it, how quickly it is, and we're quickly adding integrations. We are on March 1st going to launch our Sharp Archive 2.0 version. You'll see it change a little bit aesthetically, but we're adding many, many more things, and we made it more efficient, made it more comprehensive, make sure we're grabbing everything. Technologically, this is very difficult to do. Because like you think there are 100 integrations out there and growing quickly. So like making sure you get all the direct messages, that if something's deleted, that it's captured. Like this is a very difficult thing to do. I'm not going to bash my competitors, but when you look at them, just Google any of my competitors and look at screenshots. Say name of company, screenshot, or software, and go to Google Images. They look like they're from Craigslist. They look right.
They still look like AOL from 1998.
Right, it's compliance. It's not something only a numbnut like me is passionate about it. I would be surprised if they're comprehensive, based on how hard it has been for us to be as comprehensive. So what we're building is our company mission is to drive two numbers to zero. One number is how much time it takes your firm to do this. Our passion is that this takes you zero time, that all you have to do is set it up and you are getting reports, and AI is supervising 100% of your communication so that you know in real time if there's a problem. So if you have an advisor that's like, hey, I'm going to get you 1,000%, or this client complains to the advisor, you know in real time right away. The advisor is notified in real time saying, do not say another word about this. You need to correct this statement. So that what that will do is that's going to train your advisor on how to not generate libelous stuff that's going to get your company in trouble. And it will take zero bit of your time. So like the two numbers we're trying to drive to zero is how much time this takes your firm to do and how much liabilities are in your communication. I believe that if we can deliver on those things, there won't be a reason to use anyone else. And so what you'll see like in the 2.0 release is how quickly you can onboard. You can already onboard in seconds, but you're going to see us over the next year or two deliver on these things where we're passionately trying to drive these numbers to zero, where if you're a firm, you don't have to worry about this, because as communications archived onto our platform, we are scanning it for all the things you should worry about. But it's not only the things that can get you in trouble, it's not just the SEC stuff. What about sexual harassment? What about workplace violence? So imagine if you have two advisors and someone says to the other one, I'm going to kill you.
I would like that to be flagged.
I would, as a firm owner, I'd want to know right away. I'd be like, dude, are you okay? And shut up. And like, don't say this stuff on company communication. Or God forbid someone commits suicide and it was in company communication. Like there's so many ways that you can get in trouble and also feel terrible. Like we have the power to keep people healthy, keep people safe. I believe that in the future that Sharp Archive will be able to add a lot of value in your communication to say like, that manager is a toxic boss and they're being abusive to that employee. You're not probably going to get sued for that, but that amazing employee is going to quit.
Right.
Or this advisor showing signs of leaving your firm and taking clients with him.
What would that look like?
Well, so if you're a firm owner, how hard is it to get AUM? I mean, it is difficult and expensive and you have to pay for marketing. But you and I both know that every advisor is thinking about going on their own probably.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be great if that could be flagged to management to say this advisor is thinking of leaving, and you have a conversation with them, or I don't know what you deal with that, how you want to deal with it. But there are more ways that I can save firms money. Like that's an expensive loss of business if an advisor takes AUM with them and if it can be flagged in real time. Now, to be clear, this is not what we do now, but come along for the ride, baby. Yeah.
Well, I think we can really save a lot of firms a ton of money by just saying, hey, you've turned over all your communication to us. I bet we can add tons of value for you.
Well, in the same way that opposing counsel might use that convenience to make it easier to go after you and sue you.
Yeah.
Why not add that same ease to your company
100%.
And use it for yourself to make sure that you're running a better organization, that you're growing more efficiently? That makes great sense.
Well, and we'll get back to like what you guys do, but like this is so like, and think about like with opposing counsel, like what happens is if you're a lawyer, if you're an ambulance chasing lawyer, you get you're going to say, someone approaches you, whether from advertising or whatever, and says, hey, I want to sue this guy. They're going to say, well, show me what evidence you have. In other words, send me all the emails, send me all the communication, let me see what you have. And opposing counsel is trying to decide, is this worth my time to sue this person? Because often they're not paid hourly, they're paid on like a percent of the settlement. So what they're looking for is the lowest hanging fruit on the tree. And so if they look through all the emails and there's no evidence of a promissory statement or guarantee or nothing in what they sue with the client, they probably won't take on the case and even get to the point where they're asking for discovery material. But even if they get to that, if they go through discovery material and there's nothing in there, there's no evidence because Sharp Archive has trained your staff what to say and what not to say and told you in real time when there's problems and there's nothing in there, there's no lawsuit.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah. I appreciate that you don't bash your competitors, but I have also heard horrific things about your competitors, and that tends to be one of the main reasons. And I would say that on the enterprise level, when we talk about the LPLs and the prime financials of the world, these big RIAs or aggregators or hybrid broker-dealers, they tend to not want to do anything else that would involve more archiving. So the big example in our space is we don't want to add Instagram. We don't want to add TikTok, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Because the archiving infrastructure is so dated and is so challenging. So I'd be curious to know, because you were an RIA owner before you were the founder of Sharp Archive, right?
Yeah, I am an RIA owner.
So tell me about how that has educated your approach to this.
Oh my God. Well, okay, so here's the biggest thing. For firms thinking that their advisors aren't texting with each other and texting clients is the stupidest thing ever. You think they're not going to use Instagram? You don't think they're going to talk about what they do on Facebook? Like, get real. Like the whole idea of holding back the river is not going to work. So a better alternative is to use a software that's makes it really easy to not do that. So what I would say to those firms is, here's how I see your shoes, is for one thing, if you're the one having to manage an archiving software, the last thing you want to be doing is chasing down passwords and nagging people for this. What people who use our software, like already Sharp Archive's doing this really well, but what we're building is we're going to continually push the onus of that onto advisors so that when they log into it, it's going to do a search of the internet to find their Reddit account. Like, is that on their radar? Well, this guy said it's something on Reddit 3 years ago. You have to archive that. Like tough noogies. Like you have to archive and hold it for 7 years. So if your archiving solution doesn't do everything, like that's a major headache. We've had people come to us where they're using 3 different archiving solutions. Like that's insane. So you need to be on a boat where your archiving solution is built for the future and not 1992, is that you have to archive everything. And our team is, like, we're still building out our integrations, but our plan is basically to be looking for anything. So like already when people like, hey, can you add this thing or that thing? We can do it pretty quickly, which will happen with you guys, I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, how long did it take us?
LinkedIn?
I drive my team, I'm like, this is how we show off. Is
right.
That when people ask
how fast?
We've been slower the last few months because we have had to rebuild our database a little bit, or back end a little bit. But it's like 2 weeks. And it's pretty quick. So like there will be stuff in the future that none of us have heard about. And we are going to have a team. We have a team that can add this stuff really quickly. My competitors don't seem to have that. Like I've been been in the industry for 4 or 5 years and they're barely different.
Well, and it sounds like now, in part thanks to you, absolutely, the technology exists for this, which is an excuse I hear from myriad advisors, particularly ones that we work with, where they say, okay, yes, I would like to market more. I would like to grow more. I would like to be more public digitally. I would like to be on social media. I would like to write more blogs. I would like to go on podcasts. I would like to do all of these things to further grow my firm and expand my digital mass, but I don't want to get in trouble for compliance. So I'm curious to know, does that seem like a worthy excuse to not take the actions to grow your firm?
It is quickly not going to be a worthy excuse. So I would say it's basically 2 different vantage points. One is the content that you say and the content being supervised. Those 2 vantage points are going to, so for one, like with your beautiful software, it says what you can say. So like as long as you don't go off script, and as you guys improve it, because we're thinking the same thing, is like, what does the future of all this stuff look like? So as long as you stay on script, the non-compliant communication won't be created in the first place. But as long as you have a software that's catching it in case you do and tells you in real time, what is the excuse?
Yeah. And having that omniscient lifeguard that's working for you
100%
makes
of the
perfect
time.
sense. Yeah. Because, and I like what you say, that there will always be communications, particularly at larger organizations.
And it will continue to scatter.
Yeah.
What happens when there's 1,000 channels? Like we have a list of like 100 and something channels, like everything you can imagine. What's it going to be in 5 years? 200? Like this is going to continue to get. And so like, what does that mean for your firm? Do you have to like exponentially have staff reading 5% of communication and exponentially saying like, oh, your thing over here, and like it's a nightmare? Or do you have a software where we're like, okay, this advisor, we're going to search the internet for stuff that they're saying, and we're going to let you know that, oops, here's something they said on Reddit. That's what we're aspiring to do. I mean, it's a technologically difficult thing, but our aspiration is that this takes zero of your time, and that the risk is a solved problem.
Do you think that technology will create a situation where the dog's chasing its own tail, where the expectations from regulators shift now that it's far easier to, let's say, use an AI system to review 100% of your communications?
Yeah.
Does the expectation now become that you must be reviewing and highlighting 100%?
Well, so this is a big problem. Okay. Regulation is slow. So it's not going to happen in 2026, but it is almost a certainty that within some period of time, I'm not going to pick a date, regulators are going to be like, okay, technology, it's humans reading emails is the dumbest use of time ever. They're not that great at it. This is tailor-made for AI. 5% of communication means that you have a 1 in 20 chance of catching something. So at some point, whether it's a few years, 10 years, or whatever, at some point, yeah, it's going to be 100% supervision by AI. That will be the norm. And what we are going to be doing with our software is offering to firms, saying like, here's your firm policy that we would suggest, where it describes what this looks like as 100% supervision, where it replaces a 5% humans reading communication thing. But here's the thing. We talked about competitors and bashing competitors. And I won't name names. I want to.
We know who they are. We know the names.
But there are multiple competitors where they charge you for your own data to leave them. This comes up for us in our sales department several times a month, where it's almost like an internal joke with us of like, what's the record? Our record is $116,000. We had a ma and pa shop, a husband and wife RIA couple. They wanted to charge them $76,000 for the two of them, whatever they had in their communication.
So they're ransoming.
Yeah, it's straight up ransoming. So we don't do long-term contracts. I hate getting software where I'm like, I have to keep this for a year and make a year-long decision. We're month to month only. So like, if you don't like us, leave us. Like that's how confident we are that people like us, and we don't lose users. So we're not going to do these 3-year long-term contracts. Your data, you don't even need to go through us. So like many of our competitors, you have to email them, send us this data. Get it yourself. If you want to take all of your data and leave us, we'll cry, but
you're going to get your data.
Get your data for free. We're not going to charge you $100,000, 6-figure number. But so the other thing is, let's fast forward in the future to when you do have to supervise all your communication. And you're on a platform where they're going to charge you 6 figures to leave them. And it sucks, and it's still no different than it is today. And I mean, again, I've been watching this for 5 years or something. It's probably, I mean, our competitors don't really change much. Because it's a niche software. It's a small area. But in the future, you're going to be stuck with a software that you'd have to pay a bunch of money to leave. That's not, that your firm's going to have to spend crazy amounts of time to supervise.
Or you're going to miss opportunities today because you have limits on your archiving capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we've seen that more times than I would like to count, where an advisor cannot post to a certain social media platform because their archiving solution doesn't allow them to archive. They just don't support that integration. And we've found we just did this whole audit of all of our clients over the course of 2025 to understand which platforms were the most successful for them in terms of converting attention into net new AUM. And the order is as follows. It is TikTok first, then YouTube, then Instagram, then Facebook, then LinkedIn. You want to know which two pretty much no archiving solution offers?
We're the only ones that do TikTok.
There's only you guys that do TikTok. I've seen a couple that do YouTube reasonably well.
Right.
And it is unbelievable how few of them do Instagram, but do Facebook, which makes...
It's the same, well, so like, I know the tech part of it. It's the same integration.
Right. They're giving you half of the integration that they already set up.
Yeah. I don't get it, but I do think, like, it does speak to that it's a very stodgy industry. It's compliance. It's boring. Like when people say, "What do you do for work?" I'm like, "All right, buckle up."
Let me explain.
Hold on to your seats. You may want to be sitting down. Okay, so let's fast forward 3 years. Are you optimistic that it's going to be any different? I'm optimistic that it won't be different.
I mean, I'm optimistic that it's already different. I think that the simple fact is that most advisors lack the tools that already exist. That's been my realization in the industry over the course of 2025, was that in 2023 and 2024, you could make a pretty reasonable argument that the tech or the compliance companies or the regulators were holding you back.
Yeah.
Right? Those were the things that were keeping you from taking certain actions to grow your firm. The regulators drop things like the SEC new marketing rule. A huge step back for them to say, okay, like you can do testimonials, you can do all these things.
Surprising.
Unbelievably surprising. The regulators take a big step back, and the compliance firms and these compliance departments start to go, okay, digital age, more flexibility. Let's start to think about opening the doors for our advisors to do more things. But the technology is still lacking because the archiving platforms weren't keeping up. They were saying, okay, yes, we understand that you can do that, but we can't archive it. So you're not going to keep your books and records requirements, so you can't do it. And now the tech is there.
It is. Well, and like, imagine, so I think it's easy to forget what it's like as an advisor when you're starting out. It's a slog. I would never want to do it again. And if you're a Gen Z person and you're like, I'm getting all this business on TikTok, but I can't use TikTok. I can't even talk about my business on TikTok. You're going to quit. You're going to go to a firm that is. And if you're trying to grow AUM, like there's an old saying in business of like hire people and get out of their way. And like you've found it, I'm sure. It's like if you have to micromanage people, it's a problem for everybody. I think it's unrealistic to try to pick and choose platforms. What's better is to choose a platform that will do everything, and choose a platform that's going to archive everything and it's going to supervise them so that you don't have to worry about it. If you're trying to do this with multiple softwares, good luck. I mean, that's going to be a nightmare to try to do, and you're going to have to keep staffing up. Or you could probably save FTE by having what everyone will do in the future is have AI do all this for you, which is what we're doing.
And you being obstinate is not going to keep those things from happening.
It's unrealistic. In fact, this is what I suspect, like those firms that the $2.6 billion in SEC fines, probably the firms were saying, all right, guys, don't talk on WhatsApp. They probably said that to them. And you and I, as advisors, were like, yeah, right.
Right.
We're friends and we hang out and get beer, we talk about business. Like, it's unrealistic that you think that people are not going to use whatever they want to use.
And we've even run into it where advisors in our sales calls will say, yeah, my firm doesn't allow it, but I'm just going to do it until they tell me not to. And
exactly.
I'm like, please don't.
Exactly.
Please don't do that. And then
but truth be told, if they're saying that to you or anybody,
they're already doing it.
Maybe they don't understand, which would not surprise me. It takes kind of a while to kind of get the vibe of compliance, I think. But they're going to do it, especially if they're young. They're going to be like, what do you mean I can't talk over TikTok? Are you out of your mind?
Well, and if you don't look at it from the perspective of a firm owner, you've been hired by a company to go and gather assets. You're like, why would you not let me gather assets over there?
Right.
Why is it just in this field that I'm allowed to farm? Like, I have so many more opportunities, and I can guarantee the grass is greener over there. I'm going to go work with a firm that lets me go over there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like I'm 45 and I'm starting to realize how much older I look to someone who's in their early 20s. And it's hard. What I find being a smidge older is people look not as young as you look old to them. Does that make sense? Like 20
Fair.
years looks half as young, but I look twice as old.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm 27, but the beard carries a lot of weight.
Sure. So, well, there you go, 27. So like someone being 20 years older than you feels a lot older. But it's hard to explain how I can only imagine how discouraging it would be to work for a firm where you are passionate about growing AUM. You're demographically in a great position because there isn't a lot of young blood in our industry, but your firm's like, no.
Yep. And you ask why, and they say, the technology doesn't exist. And you say, yes, it does.
I can tell you what they're thinking. They're thinking, okay, I'm going to bide my time, grow my AUM, and go independent. Which is what I did at 30 or whatever. Like, this is what all your advisors are thinking. Or what would be smarter is to make this as least of a pain as possible for your advisors. Because like part of our mission is that we're driving the number to zero, how much time this takes your firm, which means the individual advisors. Is you don't want to make this a high friction experience of them archiving. Ours is already just seconds to do it, but to have everything comprehensively done, our goal is to make it so it takes zero of their time.
Well, and then you can start to do things for your advisors that they can't achieve on their own.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed when I talk to aggregators and I talk to these larger RIAs, is that the ones that are truly successful are providing things that would be unbelievably challenging to spin up as an individual.
Totally. That's the value of a large firm, is doing like dinner, big dinners, or doing whatever like client events. So where is all our industry going? All the value that we think we provide to clients is going to collapse down to a relationship, which is really what it's always been. Is the more you can free up your team to only go skiing with your clients or play golf with your clients, and to be like, no, your job is to go be friends with wealthy people. That's your job. That's a cool job, and we'll pay in like you could. I think there's a case to be made of not paying people by AUM, to be like, no, we'll pay you a salary to go golf with people. That's your job. You will raise.
It's a good retirement for me.
You'll raise way more money AUM wise to have that directive. And to say, no, the value that you can bring is a relationship. That's something AI will have a very difficult time replacing.
Well, and at that point, you will be hiring robots. So
yeah, and they'll go golfing with your client.
That's a horrifying image. I hope we don't get there, but you never know. Mm-hmm. So when we think about Sharp Archive going forward,
yep.
March 1st is your big launch?
2.0, baby.
That's exciting stuff.
It is, yeah. So like what that means, what we've done is we've rebuilt our back end. So we realized that the way we had built it, it was getting slower and slower. But I don't think people could tell, but we can tell. And so our mission is to make this cost people 0 time. So that means if it's taking a minute or two to load up, that doesn't work. So we have already sped it up, and we're adding 10 integrations. So we're adding iMessage, WhatsApp, Nextdoor, my rep chat. Is that what it is? Oh man, I'm forgetting. But so we're adding all tons of integrations to it. There'll be some aesthetic changes. The AI supervision thing, there'll be a basic version of it, and then we're going to be iterating it really quickly, as fast as we can go. And so the AI supervision is going to be looking for everything you can imagine that your firm would want to know in their communication, not just compliance things, but workplace violence, sexual harassment, everything that you'd want to know. And we'll be iterating. So one thing I'm really proud of is that we have a very close relationship with our users, and they see our vision and they are on the journey with us. So they tell us what they want. They tell us, this is a pain in the butt. This is taking me a lot of time. I'm like, great. Now I know what to do with my time, is to save our users time. So I think it's fun to be a Sharp Archive user, which who would have guessed with compliance software, but with 2.0, you'll see the beginning of this exponential change to really being something totally different than anything that exists.
Well, and I think that oddly, the same relationship idea that you were describing with RIAs, the idea that there will be this collapse into relationships, in many ways, I've been seeing that happen in tech in a big way.
Yeah.
Because there are so many platforms that you just cannot get in touch with anyone. You have no feedback loop. You have no way of communicating with someone to get a bug fixed or request a new feature or anything of that sort. And we've noticed that with Sage, that one of the things we do exceptionally well is just actually communicate with people.
Be responsive.
Have a relationship with
Right.
the people who are using your platform. Just because they're looking at it through a computer screen doesn't mean they don't deserve a white glove service. The whole point of the software is to make it easier for them to interact with the tools, not to rob them of the components that allow them to grow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, which I think, like, the way that we see it is so the thing we're working on is a 3.0, not to get ahead of my skis here, but what I see the future of all business is 100% AI and it collapsing down to a relationship. And I think, like, I heard a great thing that Elon said where he said that if you think of like what a spreadsheet is, so if you're a male, we all create spreadsheets, right? I don't know why, it's a man thing. And so we all have these spreadsheets that we'd be embarrassed if anyone else see how much we spend on our spreadsheets. But in the 60s, it would have taken a whole building of people to do all those calculations. So if you had two businesses where one of them is 100% spreadsheet and one is 99%, and they have to calculate two of those cells, this business will win. Eventually, the percentage difference becomes exponential over the long term. So every business needs to be thinking about how to be 100% AI and to collapse their business down to a relationship. And that's what we're also driving forward with us with AI. Is our goal is that if people need something, there's like an AI assistant that helps them right away. But if they say human, like boom, there's a human right there in seconds. So that they feel like they're supported, but they have a omniscient entity that they can direct and say, hey, we need to download this. Great, here you go. Go over here, boom, 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 it's done. Because again, our goal is that this takes 0% of your, this takes 0% of your time. And AI is the solution to do that. And we can provide a more human experience by mitigating silly tasks that take you a lot of time so that you don't ever have to wait for anything. But we're right there for you.
If you need us, we're there, but the goal is to make it so that you're not even spending the time thinking about getting in touch with us.
Yeah, we're here there for you. But it helps us, like getting in touch with us helps us because we know we're like, okay, we're not at 100% if they have to get a hold of us. But it's also to make it great for you. Is that if you can do everything without using us, great. Don't we both want that?
That's the hope.
Do you want to talk to me?
I mean, yes, I did invite you on a podcast so that I could talk with you for an hour, but...
Yeah, but it's vastly better. If you're like, what's the archiving law? And this thing knows it. I think for all software, that's what it's going to be. But what I think for it's funny as a software because there is always a barrier, and same with Sage, as people might feel, that's different with you because people know who you are. But I think it's important that people feel like there's a human behind it. So like we're going to make our AI thing funny, and it's cracking jokes about being AI, but people know. I mean, like our passion is like, isn't this going to be easier for you if you can just talk to that little AI Zoom call thing that's a photorealistic person that knows who you are and knows you like baseball and has some sort of relationship with you? I think that's better for everybody.
Well, and I think it will help us recalibrate a little bit because I personally tie a lot of value into my work. And I'm very quickly realizing as I get older that the work is the thing that I need to do so that I can go and do other things. And so I feel this immediate objection to this idea that like that work might be taken away from me.
Right.
But then I think about it and I'm like, well, the whole reason I work is to get value across the table to someone else as quickly as humanly possible. And if I can do that with more people faster, then I'm achieving the goal I set out for myself. Like my goal is I want to help 1 million people become more financially literate.
Yeah.
So I help financial advisors make other people financially literate. I share information on TikTok and Instagram to make people more financially literate. I run an RIA to achieve those goals. And I am nowhere near 1 million people.
Right.
But if I have tools like that, it frees up more time to go work on it.
Right. Well, 100% is like I think all of our lives, I think that there's going to be people who don't adapt. So I think that for those who embrace the future, which is 100% AI, your work will collapse to relationships. Is that what if you didn't have to do anything but meet with people? Or if you're a firm, if you can tell your advisor saying like, no, you don't have to do any of this stuff. You can just go golf with your clients. You might have to, as a firm owner, have to tell yourself like, yeah, that's actually the best use of their time. That's how you raise AUM. But freeing up time is what will make the firms grow. Is they will figure it out. They're going to figure out it's not a good thing for you to have 20 people on your staff reading emails. That is the stupid use of capital. What you should be thinking is, great, AI is going to have a future where this doesn't have to happen, and now I have 20 FTE that can go golfing with people.
And they can just be focused on the biggest thing that moves the needle, not wondering.
You're the firm owner, you figure it out. But like, you and I can both agree that that's a stupid use of capital in the world of AI.
Agree, absolutely. Well, Chad, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on.